Hello, my name is Carlos Llanes. This is my third entry into my cultural basket assignment for ITL 604. In this video, I will be talking about place and how it impacts my identity. Now, for many people, place can have a significant impact on their worldview, on their cultural identity, their worldview. Again, so for me. Um, Being a Cuban American, Cuba for a long time was deeply ingrained into how I saw myself as an individual. The interesting thing is that I have never been to Cuba, and I've noticed with other cultural groups, this is a phenomena usually among displaced peoples. Uh, an example that comes to mind, I have many Palestinian friends that were born here. Either they were born here, or they were born in Jordan, or they were born in some other country like the Arab Emirates or Saudi Arabia, and in a number of places where Palestinians were displaced to during the 1948 Arab-Israeli, where Israel became a nation state. So since 1948, Arab immigrants have been displaced. It's a very large diaspora group, although it's not a true diaspora because there are still individuals living under occupation, but that's besides the point of this video. Point being, there's a deep sense of belonging and a deep sense of connection to place. For me, as a Cuban American, my family my family was also displaced. My family, on my father's side, came to this country in 1970 as political refugees. So, like many other groups of displaced peoples, we have traditions of remembering the land that we have lost, talking about returning and reclaiming our home. So growing up, Cuba definitely had a large um, place. The place of Cuba had a large spot in my heart. Fast forwarding to now, um, I don't hold as much um, of a connection to Cuba as I once did, although I still consider myself Cuban American. I still speak Cuban Spanish. I still eat Cuban food. Um, we're actually making Cuban food as I'm filming this. Um, I do still hold some of a connection to the land, but for me right now, the place that I most identify with is Southern California, and I've noticed within members of my family that, over recent years, they've started to identify similarly. I have brothers that live in Texas, and they consistently tell me that living in Texas is much different than California. The culture in that particular neck of the woods where my brothers live is a bit more conservative than it is where I'm currently located. Um, More Spanish is spoken. They live in El Paso, Texas, and about 90%, 85 to 90% of the population is of Mexican descent. It's a border town. It borders the town of Juarez on the it's on the border of Juarez. So there is a different connection to place for the people of El Paso because they feel a deep connection. They're on the border. They feel very much American and Mexican at the same time. My brothers, although they're half Mexican, were born in the United States. There's a much different worldview for them, and whenever people ask where they're from, although they've been living in El Paso for quite some time, they always say California because they've come to realize that it's heavily ingrained in their cultural perspective as well as their identity, as it is for me. I've often contemplated leaving California, trying to restart in a new state, perhaps Oregon, Washington, somewhere on the East Coast. But right when I try to start the process of considering making moves to make this change a reality, I often say to myself, you're a Californian, that's a part of who you are, and this is the place that you belong. And that to me makes place a definite part of my identity, and that's why I've entered it into my cultural basket assignment. So, thank you.